Hannaford, Vermont. Said district on February 20th, 2025 at 4 o'clock. And the actual polling and election piece will take place on March 4th for all of the towns in our district that are responsible for this budget. Article 1 is to elect the following officers. It's the moderator, the treasurer, and the clerk. And at this point, I'm going to ask for nominations for the moderator.
I'll nominate Jim Douglas.
I'll second.
Yeah, Jim was scheduled to be here, but again, it was a conflict of his calendar, no one else. So I'm going to nominate Linda Barrett. Do that?
I'll second.
Thank you.
That's
Do we
point
have
of
to
order.
amend that emotion?
That's for this meeting. You're
For this
talking
meeting
the-
only.
But these are, like the following officers is for the next year.
Yes.
So it's
So
two separate things.
I'm going to give you the responsibility of doing that, if you don't mind. And all those in favor of electing Linda Barrett as our moderator this evening, she'll take over the rest of this particular meeting. And if we have questions, she'll answer. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none? Any abstentions? Seeing none? Thank
It's
you,
all
Linda.
mine, huh? Okay, so let's elect the other officers. We'll elect a moderator for the ensuing year. Do I have a nomination?
For the moderator or clerk treasurer?
For the moderator for the ensuing year, not for this meeting,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, I'm a little confused because I thought we just did that.
No, you've elected me as moderator of this meeting
Right.
only.
Okay.
So we need a moderator.
How about it, Linda?
Who's
No, thank
typically
you.
the moderator? Who typically is the moderator for the year?
Jim Douglas.
Jim Douglas.
So we should nominate Jim Douglas. I will nominate Jim Douglas
Thank
as
you.
the
I will
moderator
second that.
for the year.
He's not here to defend himself.
And I will second that. Thank you, Linda.
Good thing we have Linda here.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Jim Douglas as your moderator, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You have nominated Jim. We need nominations for a treasurer for the ensuing year. Current treasurer is Jane Beck.
And is she still interested in doing that?
Yes.
Okay. I nominate Jane Beck.
Second.
I think Judd beat you.
Judd Beach.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Jane Beck as our treasurer, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's right, sorry.
I can't nominate, I can't. So this is for the clerk position, and I will ask for nominations.
I can nominate Linda Barrett to be clerk for the year.
And second. Second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to hear and act upon the reports of the treasurer and the auditors of the district. Those are in your annual report, I believe. Is there anything that is not in there that we need to let people know? Is the auditor's report included?
The auditor's report is not complete for fiscal year '26, or fiscal year '25 yet. So as soon as it is, we will have it for the board.
Do I hear a motion to accept Article 2?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor of Article 2? Please raise, sorry, did you have a question?
Well, I wanted to make note of when you expect to have it published, the audit published for the public.
Austin, do you know? a
Yeah,
dead-
tentative timeframe is the spring.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we met with them a few weeks ago, and based on the delay of the start, we're looking at a spring timeline. We don't have an exact date yet, but
Thank you.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of Article 2, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 3, to determine if the voters of said district will vote to authorize its board of directors to borrow money pending receipt of payment from member districts by the issuance of its notes or orders payable not later than 1 year from date for the purchase of paying the sum approved by the voters. Do I have a motion to accept Article 3?
I move that we accept Article 3.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, if you would like to vote yes for Article 3, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You have passed Article 3. Article 4, to see if the voters of said district will vote to authorize its Board of Directors to allocate its FY24 fund balance as follows. $130,000 of the school district's fund balance as revenue for the 25-26 operating budget. Do I hear a motion for Article 4?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion on Article 4? Does anybody want to share anything about why?
We are using, I'll let Austin take any questions, but we're using this piece of fund balance to offset the costs for next year to minimize the cost to districts and taxpayers.
Dan, did you have a question, Dan?
No, I was.
Okay, just making sure. Any other discussion? Those, let's vote on Article 4. Those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Article 4 is passed. We're down to Article 5, to do any other business proper to come before the said meeting.
This is when I do the information?
You can do whatever you like.
Okay.
So we're going to turn this over to Nicole McTavish, our Superintendent Director, for the public information hearing to discuss Article 6. And I'm going to read Article 6 and then let you start, okay? Article 6, shall the voters of the Patricia Hannaford Regional Technical School District approve the school board to expend $5,704,280, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. This budget represents an 8.04% increase over expenses for the current year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in educational spending at the Hannaford Career Center to be $34,920 per full-time equivalent student on a 6-semester trailing average. This projected spending per full-time equivalent student is 9.34% higher than spending for the current year. It's all yours.
All right, we are just getting the presentation up. I think it will work better with the filming if I sit, so I'm gonna do that. Can we put it on the big screen? There you go. All right. So this is the budget presentation that I did for the board when we were finalizing the budget, and the budget presentation which I did for the sending school districts. I think it's important to do again as we are taking this final step with the budget process. So this is for our fiscal year 26 proposed budget. And just a little bit about us. Again, we were founded in 1971, and we have 2 campuses and actually 3 locations. 2 of our campus, we have this campus where we're sitting today. We have our campus out at North Campus on Manelli Road where we have our automotive, diesel, and agriculture programs. And then we have our satellite program, which is held inside of Regents High School, where we have Bill Vanderwert and Carl Crawford, who teach a number of CTE courses, business, CAD, agriculture, out there for students at the Regents High School.
Very close.
That's our staff. They're on the stairs. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we serve all of Addison County. We also have some students who come to us from Otter Valley who generally are coming for the diesel program. But if, for example, if Stafford happens to be full in a program and a student would like to take a course here, then I get on the phone with Melissa, the director over at Stafford, and we do those kind of allowances back and forth. We have the same when a student of ours wants to take a program that Stafford has that we don't have, then the student can go there. So we try to make sure that whatever we can do to support a student so that they can take a career technical education class, we do. So we serve, right now our enrollment in our 9 through 12 program is 347 students. And we have those in 9th and 10th grade programs, which are our pre-technical courses, which are held every other day for 2 hours. And then we have our 11th and 12th grade programs, which are technical courses, which are held every day for 2 hours. We have anywhere, at any given time, we have 100 or so adult learners. So over the course of the year, we do several hundred adult learners through certifications. We really are leaning into mostly the healthcare field, but we have the CNA, the Certified Nursing Assistant, the LNA, Licensed Nursing Assistant, and I'm missing one, phlebotomy. And then we also do welding certifications. We occasionally do CAD or other certifications where you're doing either additive or subtractive manufacturing. And then we do things like tractor safety and forklift safety and sort of we respond to what needs the community has. We also have many statewide industry partners. We couldn't do CTE without our industry partners. They offer us job shadows, job apprenticeships. They mentor our students. Our students go to those workplaces. And that's a big part of the experience that kids get to have in career technical education, is going into real world work. So our mantra in career technical education is that we prepare students for high wage, high skill, high demand careers. And in Vermont, we are organized generally around around counties. So for us, our focus is really on what does Addison County need to drive our workforce and our economic development. So our pre-technical programs are our 9th and 10th grade programs. These are programs that students are generally taking, which is sort of an introduction to a field. And then we align these pre-technical programs with our technical programs, hoping that students will then take that next step to go further into the technical education so that they can move into that career, hopefully. So this is a list of the current pre-technical programs that we have, which is our CAD, agriculture, STEM, mechanical science, small business, visual communications, and the small business entrepreneurship is offered at Virgins High School, and the agriculture we have both at Virgins and at our main campus here. Our technical program, we're really excited about our offerings for technical program for Addison County students. So we have everything from theater, advanced manufacturing, again, that's both additive and subtractive manufacturing. So putting things together to make products, like think 3D printing, that sort of thing. And then subtractive manufacturing, where you take like a block of something and you use machining to take material away in order to be left with a thing that you need to make. Then we have our visual communications class, and then next year we're going to have apparel and interior design as a second year program for students. Automotive technology, construction technology, culinary arts. Many of you just had an experience with our culinary kids this evening. Design and illustration, diesel power, human services, and our human services is really broken down into two different fields. So we have early childhood education for students who may want to go into working with very young children, think birth to 5. And then we're doing a pre-teaching program. So think sort of kindergarten through 12th grade. So we're really diversifying there so that we can really feed into our much needed teaching population. And then medical professions, our students they have the opportunity to leave that program with their LNA in hand. So that's a pretty big deal. Natural resources management, sustainable agriculture, and our brand new this year welding program. And we're thrilled to announce that our current class of welding students is half girls. So that's a really big deal in our world, and we're really excited about that. So one thing that's really great about CTE is it really helps students be successful, not just in the CTE program that they're in, but it bleeds over and it creates success in their high school experience. So for our students, as we track our students student by student, and the way that graduates are tracked for career technical education is if they ever took a program in their 11th grade year or their 12th grade year, we track them at the end of their 12th grade year to see if they graduated. So if a student was with us their 11th grade year, but they didn't take a program with us their 12th grade year, we would still track them, and if they graduated, that would count in our favor. Or if they didn't take one their 11th and they took one their 12th, we track them. So if they were ever here as an 11th grader or a 12th grader, we track them. And we find that the students who have the opportunity to take career technical education are more successful, even more successful than our already successful high schools. So our last, so we have a trailing average. We don't get our graduation numbers until 1 year later, but our trailing average right now is 99%. So that's pretty fantastic. And then all across Vermont, CTE students in aggregate are graduating at a rate of 95, which is several percentage points above just straight every kid in graduating from high school. And because all Vermont student graduation rate is hovering right around 83% right now. The other thing is when students, which are CTE concentrators, which means they generally take both years of a program, so they take 1 and 2 of a program. In our case, if they're culinary, it's just 1 year because the culinary is a full-year program. But those students, when they go on to earning wages later on in life, earn quote $3,300 more than non-CTE grads. The other thing about CTE, which really impacts a student's life and makes a big difference for the economic development of the county or state that they're in, is that the students walk out with more than just their training. They actually walk out with what's called a Tier 2 industry certificate, which is that they earn a credential from the actual field that they're studying in. So, for example, in welding, they actually earn the same industry credential that a welder in the field of welding would earn, so that they can use that when they go apply for jobs, should they choose to follow that career path. Similarly, in medical professions, for example, students earn their licensed nursing assistant credential. So whatever field that they're in, they earn industry credentials for that field. In addition to, in most cases, about half of our cases, college credit. So this number is actually up from 35% a year ago when we had the same report. So you'll see that we're focusing very strongly on adding more and more college credits to our offerings for kids. And right now, 1 in 3 of our students, and these are generally our technical students, so this is our 11th and 12th grade students, 1 in 3 pretty much have the opportunity to go out in the field in what's called work-based learning or co-op, where they go and they do part of their day actually at a work site so that they're learning the real-world skills of their chosen field. Oftentimes when we're doing these presentations, people are interested in, from their town or from their high school, what students are coming. So right now, ACSD has about 530 high school kids, and about 30% of them are taking, so about 1 in 3 are taking a class here. And at Mount Abe, they have 404 high school students, and about 20%, 21% are taking a course here. And Addison Northwest, they have 257, and they have 40% of their kids taking a class. And remember, part of that is because we have that great partnership with Virgins, where we have some of our two of our teachers actually at Virgins. So we are both finding that to be a really excellent way for kids to have access to CTE, and are hopeful that we're able to continue that. People often ask about students with disabilities and if they're able to access the career technical education programs, and it's a resounding yes is the answer. In fact, students that have a disability, so they have an individual education plan, or what's called a 504 plan, where they have an identified disability. If they attend CTE, take CTE classes, they have better outcomes than non-CTE peers that also have a disability. One of the things we really celebrate here at the Hannaford Career Center is that we have a very open admissions process. We really encourage all students to take CTE. And so at our sending schools, across the 3 sending schools, about 22% of the students in all 3 of those schools are identified with a special need. So either having an IEP or a 504 where they have a specific disability. But of our population, about 1 in 3, 34% of our students are identified as a student with disability. And we still have those exact same strong outcomes that I spoke of earlier. We really work hard to support all kids. In Addison County right now, we have a less than 2% unemployment rate. It's really important that every student be able to graduate with a high wage, high skill, high demand job. And so we really take this very seriously to make sure that we're preparing all students for their futures. Every year, the McClure Foundation, who is a fantastic partner to CTE in Vermont, does a big and deep study of labor markets and economic trends in Vermont. And every year they put out a report which helps us all to determine which are the sectors where we need to really lean in for career technical education. These are the top 6 jobs that are right now have the most projected openings. You can see nurses, carpenters, chefs, CNC tool operators, which is manufacturing, plumbers, and industrial machinery mechanics, again, part of our manufacturing program. You'll be happy to know that all of these top needs are being met by the Hannaford Career Center programming. We also like to make sure that everyone knows that we're not just asking for money. We work very hard to find our own revenue resources too through grant opportunities. David Roberts is our lead grant writer and has been very successful at writing and winning grants for us. Over the last about 2 years, we've won over $1 million worth of grants that really offsets our budget. Our budget's less than $5.5 million, so $1 million makes a really big difference. And this is money that we seek out and earn so that we can help offset our costs to our sending school districts and our taxpayers. The other mission of career technical education centers is to serve adult learners. I spoke a little bit about that at the beginning, but we specifically here lean very heavily into the healthcare field because we are partners with Porter Medical and UVM. And we offer certification for phlebotomists, for licensed nurse practitioners, and for certified nursing assistants. So people from our community can come and take those classes here in the evenings, walk out with their certificate, and pretty much go get a job in our community or a surrounding community. We also offer welding and soldering. Soldering is specifically a partnership that we are doing with Collins Aerospace, which is a really exciting partnership. They need people that can do the very specific high-tech soldering that's needed for aviation and rocket science. And we like to train those people. We have a soldering lab actually next door to this room. And then we also do forklift, tractor safety, and small engine repair. What's exciting right now about CTE is career technical education is having a moment across the nation. It's not just in Vermont. As students are this kind of trend started happening sort of after, right, post the COVID years when a lot of young people were cooped up for a long period of time. And many of you have heard the narrative of how expensive college can be for families. So it seems like across the nation, young people are starting to reevaluate what kind of secondary experience they might want to have, or if they want to have a secondary experience, or maybe go into a workplace. And so across the nation, career technical centers like us, high school student centers, also community college technical programs, and technical colleges are having astounding levels of enrollment increases. I have a friend that works at Oregon Institute of Technology, and they had their biggest freshman class in over 20 years. It was up almost 20%. So CTE is having a moment. People are understanding the great jobs, high skill, high demand, high wage jobs that they can get in these fields. And our economies really need people with these skill sets to shore up, especially our manufacturing, agriculture, and medical professions fields. These are just a few of the headlines from this year about that shift that's happening, the trend that's happening as people are really leaning into career technical education. One of the things that we really love about living in this community in Addison County is our graduates are making a difference in our community. When you walk into, these are just a few of the community partners that we have that are either run or owned by graduates from this program, or have significant leadership roles such as the CEO or the chief financial officer or those sorts of roles. So the graduates that we have that are leaving our center with exceedingly good technical skills and community savvy are walking out and actually starting and running businesses. So I think it's a proof of concept, and it really is adding to the value of our community, and we're super proud of them. And they also are very willing to come back and help out here and talk to young people about the career path that they took and how it worked out for them. So we really appreciate their partnership. So this is the current budget that we're in, 2025. So you can see that for our center, the bulk of our budget is made up of wages, which is the blue, benefits, which is the orange, and then our debt service. We have, as you know, our bond to remodel this facility. It was just over $8 million, and we'll be paying that off for quite some time. So those three big chunks of the pie are pretty set, and we don't have a lot of control over. And then the other slices of the pie are the other pieces, property services, repairs and maintenance, travel, equipment. CTE equipment is expensive. It's one of the things that makes CTE more expensive than other forms of education, because when you're buying an auto lift or a new CNC machine, that's a pretty good chunk of change. But we also have a really good maintenance plan. We take very good care of the things that we have, and they last us a very long time to serve kids. So this is this year's budget compared to what we're proposing for next year's budget. You'll see it looks very similar. So again, wages, benefits, and debt service. These pieces of the wages and benefits specifically are a little bit bigger piece of the pie. We just concluded a negotiated agreement with our teaching staff, which resulted in additional wages for them, much earned, and very excited for them. And then also the benefits, as you know, any employer in all of Vermont knows that benefits is a big piece, and we have zero control over that because it's set at the state level. So we also had a 11.9% increase in those benefits. And our debt service continues to be and will be for a very long time the bigger piece of that puzzle too. Something else which doesn't necessarily impact us, but it impacts us indirectly because it impacts our sending schools very much. And it does impact us because each year there is what's called the base rate, which is an amount of money that we get from the state for each student. For 10 years, it's gone up every year. It's tied to a number of indicators in the economy, and it generally goes up either a very little or quite a bit in some years. And we still don't have a good answer, but for this year, for the first time in 10 years, it went down. It has not been explained. All school districts are facing this. I don't have a good reason why it went down, but yet it did, and so we are experiencing essentially a 3% cut in our funding that we have to make up for on top of the rising costs of healthcare and wages. So that brings us to our forecast for tuition. Our fiscal year 25 announced was 11,365. Our fiscal year 26 proposed is 11,021, and that's a decrease of 344. The school portion is 20,571. Fiscal year proposed is 23,899, which is that increase of $3,328, resulting in a 9.34% increase in tuition. Again, that is almost entirely before we even did all the work and ran all the spreadsheets and did all the numbers and did all the expels. When your costs of labor go up 9% and your healthcare costs go up 11.9%, we always knew it would be in the 10%-ish range. We worked pretty hard to keep it below 10%, which we were able to do for our sending school districts. So the increase overall is 8.04% increase, which is just under $450,000 for our total budget. Just to kind of put it in perspective, it always looks like a big increase. To put it in perspective, if across all of Addison County, public education costs $123 million to the state. So if you put all of the proposed budgets for ourselves, Lincoln, Virgins, Middlebury, and Mount Abe all into one pie. That's $123 million we're spending on public education. Our cost is $5.7 million, so we're 4.45% of the total cost of education in all of Addison County. So we feel like when we serve 347 kids out of about 1,000 across the county, and you've seen the outcomes that we're able to produce for kids and the really big impact that we make on our local economy and local business. I feel like 4.45% of the pie is a pretty good bang for our taxpayers' buck. And we're just very excited that we are preparing young people and adult learners for high wage, high skill, high demand jobs in Addison County and across Vermont. Should have brought water. Questions? Are there questions I can answer? Yes.
I have a question about if we know anything about the Department of Labor grant funding and how it could perhaps impact the FY26 budget. Are the funds frozen at this point?
You say Department of Labor grant.
The GEAR grant, it said DOL, I'm assuming it was Department of Labor.
We
They're
don't have
federal
any-
grants, right?
No, we have no federal grants frozen. As a matter of fact, I just got this week $330,000 from the feds.
Okay.
For our grants.
Okay.
So,
Put it in the bank quickly.
yeah. So we're going ahead with all of our grants.
Okay, for current
Right.
year,
Yep.
but for FY26, no.
We,
Well, FY26, some of those federal grants
Yep.
are supporting, so
Yep.
we're depending on that money to support some of the, is a part of our revenue picture for
Right,
FY26.
right.
Yes.
that's what she's asking.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, no, I know, and whether or not we've learned what the impacts are yet. I guess
I
we don't
think
know.
We don't know.
Okay.
My expectation is that they're gonna be minimal to us because of where we are in the stage of the grants. If
Okay.
we were early, it would maybe have a bigger impact, but we've had these grants for a few years.
Yeah, okay.
It's good to hear.
The
Right.
other context, so historically Perkins, which is a federal fund,
Yeah.
used to be baked into our general fund. We've written that out of our general fund for next year. So in some ways that's cushioned us from that impact.
Great.
It is a source of revenue we'd have to make up if we don't get that grant secured next year. But as far as we know today,
Right,
it's unknown.
right,
but,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a big fat unknown.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Okay,
while it's volatile, traditionally, career technical education is enjoyed bipartisan support. It really is one of the few things that does.
Yeah.
So we don't know, but and the other piece is our Perkins funding. Out of our entire budget is roughly napkin math, $150,000 out of our 5.1 whatever, right, million. So we aren't that dependent on it. Good question.
great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. Other questions? Yes.
I think we just lost the slides, but about 3 back, when you talked about state revenue decrease, that really is state support, isn't it? I mean, to make it look like revenue, looks like we're still getting something, but it's state support for us has been cut.
You're talking about the base rate, went from 13,000.
Yeah, you had an arrow up, and it said, I'm sorry, like 3 slides back, can you?
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor it, it just said state revenue, but it
Right, that's
really
the
is
base rate.
support. Oh,
Right.
yeah,
They-
okay.
They give us a flat amount per head, essentially,
Right.
and so if their amount goes down and we have an increase in our budget,
Yeah.
it puts a bit more strain on the sending schools as far as making up the difference.
See, decreased state revenue, now, that's really state support for us.
Where?
Right there on the arrow, it says decreased state revenue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's revenue to us, but it's really support to us. I think the state revenue is what the state is getting from outside sources.
Oh, no, it's
The money that the state is giving us
Us, yeah.
as a part of the tuition rate has gone down.
Okay,
So it just means that the school has to make up a larger portion of that.
right. So this, I just look at it as the state is supporting us less. It's a little more blunt.
Yeah, and it was really puzzling because over We certainly didn't count on a large increase, but we never would have predicted a decrease because it has literally never gone down in 10 years.
And we don't know why, they won't explain it,
It-
you know.
It's not just affecting us, it's
Right.
affecting every school district.
Yeah.
And we have asked many questions, right?
And it's, as Nicole said earlier, it's contrary to economic trends and
Right.
factors that normally factor into that formula. So if you take the same scenario that panned out last year in years past, we experienced a 5 or 10% increase in the state's funding. So
This went the other way.
with similar
Yeah.
or more positive economic trends, we went the opposite direction, which is unexplainable. So.
One quick question. I don't know if it's pertinent to us, but with everything I've been reading and everything that's been talked about, and moving things around, I never see any mention of transportation costs.
Oh, great question. So, transportation for career technical education centers is provided by the sending school district.
Okay.
So the transportation that we do provide, however, is shuttling kids around, which we do a lot of because they do a lot of going to work sites, going to work-based learnings, going to co-ops, and we do a lot of field trips into the field. So the transportation that we're responsible providing is usually a fleet of a bus or two and a fleet of vans.
Okay.
Right, so we don't have to do the actual door-to-door transportation that K-12 school districts do.
Okay. Thank you.
This wasn't a question. I just wanted to acknowledge that with less time than is normally allocated to this process, that David and Austin and Nicole and Wendy have done a fantastic job in controlling costs. And what was really going to be a terrible year fiscally turned out to not be that terrible. And so I have been very impressed and wanted to acknowledge the work that those 4 people have done to come up with the budget and to present it to the voters. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nicole or any of the others? Hearing none. Is there any other business that anyone wants to bring forward at this meeting? Last chance. So this meeting will now be recessed until March 4th, on which date all member district voters will be have been warned to vote on the Article 6 that we just discussed by Australian ballot at their respective polling places. The results of that voting the votes will be commingled and counted that night, and they will be available for public knowledge Wednesday morning.
Is the voting place on Creek Road?
Yes, in Middlebury it is Creek Road, yes.
And much thanks to Linda, who is the
So I do have one
spearhead.
little thing that I
Yes.
want to mention, that February is honors all school board members. And I know Montpelier was doing something special for school board members, but I want to thank you guys personally. Thanks.
Thank you for all of your work.
We're done for now. I will turn it over to the chair of the board to do her school meeting when
Do you
she's
need
ready.
Do we need to adjourn this meeting?
It is not an adjourned, we
Thank
are
you.
recessed
Recessed.
till March 4th.
The recess, the
Candidates.
monthly meeting starts at
For
5,
this,
so we have 2
people
minutes.
more treated.
I will let them
Enjoy
talk.
the rest.
I just wanted to reach out to Nicole because I saw the maker.
Yeah, no,
And